It's here first from IPR News. I'm Megan McKinney. In today's episode, why are food prices expected to increase this year? And we'll get an update on the legislative session with IPR's Katerina Sostaric. It's Monday, April 13th. The state teachers union is backing Democrat Rob Sand's bid to be Iowa's next governor. The Iowa State Education Association announced the endorsement over the weekend in West Des Moines, where Sand repeated his call for more oversight of the state-funded education savings accounts for private school expenses. Sand says the union's teachers could be the secret weapon in his campaign by reaching out to Democrats, independents, and Republican voters willing to split their ticket in November.
Because you know almost everyone where you live, right? And so I'm hoping that you will be among our best volunteers.
The ISEA's president says about half the union's members are Democrats and the other half are Republicans or independents. Governor Terry Branstad was the last Republican candidate to receive the Iowa State Education Association's endorsement for his 1994 campaign. Lutheran Services in Iowa is working to launch new legal services for refugees and other immigrants. IPR's Mara Curran has more.
LSI plans to offer low-cost services for refugees and other immigrants trying to update their legal status. The nonprofit hopes to hire staff to help clients gain employment authorization cards, green cards, or become U.S. citizens. Laura Thocco is the Assistant Director of Immigrant and Refugee Community Services at LSI. She says without the right status, eligibility for public health benefits is at stake, including Medicaid health coverage once federal rules change in October.
Folks have already lost their food assistance, their SNAP benefits.
Thocco says private legal services can cost thousands of dollars. They hope to offer low-cost services around July 1st. They're asking the public to help raise $150,000 to staff the program. I'm Mara Curran, IPR News.
Food prices are expected to increase over the course of this year, especially since the war in Iran has driven up the cost of fuel and fertilizer. As Harvest Public Media's Hope Kerwin reports, food supply chains are reeling from several years of economic uncertainty.
Grocery store prices are expected to increase 3% this year, according to the latest federal forecast. Economist David Ortega from Michigan State University says diesel fuel is critical to food supply chains, from the farm to the grocery store. He says the war in the Middle East is just the latest world event to hit food prices in the last 6 years.
They tend to rise very quickly when there is a shock, but they are much slower to come down, if they come down at all.
In March, food prices were already up nearly 2% from the same month last year. The cost of fruits and vegetables increased during the month, but most other food categories saw declines from February prices, especially the cost of eggs and meat. I'm Hope Kerwin, Harvest Public Media.
A bill on the governor's desk expands the definition of unacceptable grooming behavior that would likely lead to revoking an Iowa teacher or school administrator's license. A law passed last year requires schools to notify the state licensing board if a school employee has engaged in actions that led to sexual exploitation of a student. Senator Sandy Salmon, a Republican from Janesville, says this year's bill requires reports to the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners if a school employee attempts to take advantage of a student but is unsuccessful.
This bill will help school employees and the public understand the grooming standard that the BOEE uses to make decisions and has as its goal better protecting students.
The bill passed the House unanimously, and only 2 lawmakers voted against it in the Senate. One argued the definition of grooming in the bill does not match the criminal definition, and that could make prosecuting bad actors in schools difficult. It's here first from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. We'll have more on the legislative session in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's here first from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. It's a Legislative Monday with IPR's Katerina Sostaric. Hey, Katerina.
Good morning, Megan.
Thanks for being here. Lawmakers are talking about property taxes again, something Republicans have been trying to change for a couple years now. What's the latest on that effort?
The Senate passed its property tax bill last week, so that's the first time this session a property tax bill has actually gotten through a full chamber, and it passed with bipartisan support. Senator Dan Dawson, who wrote the bill, says he knows this won't be the final property tax bill because the Senate still has to resolve its differences with the House and governor. But Governor Kim Reynolds says the Senate passing their bill creates positive momentum for negotiations, and she says GOP leaders are off to the races to figure out a final plan.
What are some of the sticking points?
Well, the House, Senate, and governor all agree that the state should limit city and county revenue growth. The Senate's bill would have a flexible revenue growth limit that would be higher in times of higher inflation to help local governments deal with rising costs. The House and governor proposed a strict 2% limit, and House Speaker Pat Grassley says the cap needs to be a specific number and shouldn't fluctuate, so they have to figure that out. And then Senate Republicans favor getting rid of the rollback system that limits the taxable value of property, but it's not clear if the House would get on board with that. Still, Grassley says property tax relief is a must-do before the session ends.
The Senate's bill would also set in motion automatic increases to the gas tax. What's the response been to that?
Some have raised concerns about this because gas prices are already high right now because of the war in Iran, and some think lawmakers should have to vote each time they want the gas tax to go up rather than having automatic increases tied to inflation. But Senator Dawson says this provision is very important because it'll generate more money for fixing Iowa's roads and bridges, and while the legislature wants to keep cutting taxes, that money has to come from somewhere. He also says with the gas tax increases proposed in his bill, it would take more than 100 years for the cost of gas to go up as much as it has just in the past few weeks because of the war.
On the note of property taxes, House Republicans are considering using an AI service to review county and school district budgets. Why are they doing that?
They say it would give them new insight into what services counties and school districts are providing, and that it would help those entities find ways to cut costs while counties are facing potential spending limits and schools say state funding isn't keeping up with their expenses. Now, this contract with Tyler Technologies would cost $1.4 million in the first year and $900,000 per year after that. And House Republicans are considering moving forward with this using their unlimited state funding rather than putting it through the regular budget process and getting approval from the Senate and governor.
And what is progress looking like for forming the state budget?
This week, the House is aiming to introduce all of their proposed budget bills. The Senate has already moved budget bills through its Appropriations Committee. And the House and Senate Republicans have both proposed spending a bit over $9.6 billion next fiscal year. So their overarching numbers are quite close, but they still have to sit down and work out all the details.
There are some bills aiming to address cancer risk in the state. Tell us about those.
The Senate passed a bill last week that would require Iowans under 18 to get a parent's permission to use tanning beds. But they took out a part of the bill that would require the permission form to include information about how tanning beds increase the risk of skin cancer. The House rejected that amendment, and lawmakers said that information needs to be on the form so parents know what they're signing their kids up for. It's not clear if this bill will end up getting to the governor's desk. And then there was also a bill that advanced in the Senate to tax alternative nicotine and vape products, and it would use some of that money to fund pediatric cancer research. Groups that are aiming to address Iowa's cancer rates say that tax wouldn't be high enough to deter the use of these products, and that the tax on cigarettes needs to be increased.
Thank you for your reporting, Katerina.
Thanks, Megan.
And thank you for listening to Hear First from IPR Today. How was your weekend? I feel like we're in this time of year where you think, oh man, where did I put my allergy medicine? Have a great day. Hang in there.